Hello people, welcome back to The Struggle, where we dive deep into the most effective ideas, stories, theories and strategies for overcoming life's challenges. The struggle is the process of working through internal or external resistance in pursuit of growth, meaning and freedom. And together we'll figure out how you're restricted and explore how you can struggle to break free and grow through whatever adversity you're facing. This is episode 57. And I'm back after a month's break. Now, I took a break to concentrate my efforts on a new mystery project that I'm working on that will remain under wraps until further notice, but as much as I did get done over the last month, there's a hell of a lot more to do, so stay tuned for updates. Now, another bit of housekeeping before we get into the episode. Since I've been away, I've decided to indefinitely pause the writing of my email newsletter, The Struggle, because the idea that I could possibly put all of my efforts into a weekly podcast, a fortnightly newsletter, this new project that I'm working on, as well as working 30 hours per week in retail and planning a move down south, is simply impossible. Or at least it's impossible to do all of that whilst maintaining mental and physical well-being. And so I had to cut something out, and the newsletter was the casualty. This is because I view this new project that I'm working on, hopefully, as a way to earn some form of income in the next few months, which will in turn free up around 10 hours a week so that I can concentrate on the podcast and then start writing the newsletter again. But for now, I need to prioritize the vital minority of tasks regarding the struggle business that produce the majority of positive results. And that is a great segue into this week's episode, in which I've rather fittingly decided to talk about Pareto's Principle, which is an extremely effective strategy for sacrificing what's least productive whilst maintaining what's most productive. Now, like I said, it's called Pareto's Principle, also more commonly known as the 80-20 principle. It's named after an Italian economist with the most Italian-sounding name ever, Vilfredo Pareto, who observed in 1896 that roughly 80% of Italy's land was owned by 20% of its population. He later noticed similar patterns in other areas such as wealth distribution and garden yields. Now, if we fast forward to the 1940s, we find that the principle has been named Pareto's Principle and has been popularized and applied to quality management by Joseph M. Juran. Juran used it within his work within industrial production to show that a small number of causes often lead to the majority of problems, referring to this principle in terms of, quote, the vital few and trivial many. Now, I should mention, Pareto's Principle doesn't always come down to 80-20. It could be 90-10, it could be 99-1, it could be 70-30. But the point is, there are a vital minority that produce outsized results. Or, to put it another way, an effective but small input leads to large output. Now let's fast forward again to 2007, when entrepreneur, investor and author Tim Ferriss wrote about the 80-20 principle in his groundbreaking book, The 4-Hour Workweek. Ferriss applies the principle as a core strategy for eliminating inefficiency and maximizing impact. Ferriss took this strategy to an extreme, but it proved highly effective. Quote, I fired 2 of my biggest clients who were responsible for about 50% of my income because they were responsible for 90% of my headaches and took almost all of my time. I rediscovered the joys of designing and selling, and my income increased. The point being that it might seem counterintuitive to get rid of a paying customer, but if they are causing headaches and taking up a lot of your precious time, those customers don't seem to be so profitable when we take this into account. So here are 4 key points Ferriss makes in the 4-Hour Workweek regarding the 80-20 principle. 1. Identify the 20% of activities that produce 80% of your results and focus only on those. 2. eliminate or delegate the 80% of tasks that produce little value or cause the most stress. 3. Apply the rule to clients, products, habits, and time, and cut out the low-yield majority. And 4. Use it as a tool for designing a lifestyle that frees up time and energy for what matters most. So let's break those down with real-world examples for how you can apply these to your life. So first, Ferriss says to identify 20% of activities that produce 80% of your results. So let's say I complete 10 tasks per day pertaining to my podcast and business, The Struggle, and I constantly feel like I'm rushing about trying to finish everything. This is, of course, hypothetical. Pareto's principle would suggest that I identify the 20% of activities that produce 80% of my results. Thus, this means choosing 2 tasks that produce 80% of the results. Or as I said earlier, it means identifying the vital few and forgetting about the trivial many. So, what few tasks produce the majority of my results? Well, I'm hoping that this new project will produce some form of income. Because at the moment, I'm not receiving any income from anything pertaining to The Struggle. So, the new project should stay because it's producing an outsized results, or I'm hopeful it will produce outsized results in terms of income. Now, in terms of viewership and subscribers, it seems that YouTube Shorts produce the most views and increase the subscribers the most. So I should concentrate my efforts on YouTube Shorts. And in terms of the meaningful impact to viewers themselves, it seems that the podcast should stay because I've received various positive reviews and comments pertaining to the impact it's had on viewers. So there's 3 areas of The Struggle that produce outsized impact that I should concentrate on. And that's 30%. So that's 30% that's producing an outsized impact, and the rest is either trivial or not producing the same level of results. Now, this same strategy can be applied anywhere in life. What 20% of fitness exercises produce 80% of results? What 20% of customers produce 80% of your profits? What 20% of causes produce 80% of your problems? Now next, Ferriss says to eliminate or delegate the 80% of tasks that produce little value or cause the most stress. Now for me, that meant cutting the newsletter for a while. Whilst I hope it did produce value, it took up a significant portion of my time, and it certainly was the least likely to produce income or grow significantly over the next 2 years. So it made sense to cut that out and zero in on the effective 30% I mentioned earlier. Now again, this strategy can be applied everywhere in life, like eliminating the 20% of your friends who are toxic, delegating administration tasks like invoicing or email management to a virtual assistant if you're finding that admin takes up the bulk of your time. Or it could be eliminating the ineffective exercises that don't align with your goals of losing weight or building muscle, for instance. It's all about concentrating on less and achieving more. What 20% of habits produce the best results? What 20% of tasks make you feel proud when completed? What's truly worth your time? If we apply Pareto's principle to the most important areas of your life and make some changes, you will see significant progress. If you concentrate on the most important aspects of each area and then reapply Pareto's principle throughout the year to ensure that you're still concentrating on the most important or the most effective 20% and not wasting time on the trivial 80%, you will be spending your time in a more effective way and it will produce outsized results. So that is the 80-20 principle in a nutshell. As much as it is enticing to try to do it all and to be busy all of the time, that's not productive. If you're anything like me, the goal is to feel freer and to have more time to do what matters most with the people that matter most. And you won't be able to do that if you're concentrating all of your efforts on all of the tasks, regardless of the results they produce. Concentrate on less so that you can achieve more and focus on what matters most. So to wrap up, The 80-20 principle teaches us that a small handful of habits, actions, or choices are responsible for the majority of our results. Whether it's your work, your relationships, or your health, the key is to identify the vital few, eliminate the trivial many, and focus your energy where it counts. Simplify, prioritize. And remember, it's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. That's the real struggle, and that's where the real freedom comes from. If you've got any stories or ways in which you've used the 80-20 principle, let me know in the comments. It would not only be beneficial to me, but anyone else looking to apply it to their lives. But for now, as always, the answer lies in the struggle. So keep on struggling. Hi guys, I've just got a wee bit of housekeeping before you take off. Firstly, thank you so much for watching. It genuinely means a lot to see people watching and liking the content. Second, if you're enjoying the content, please subscribe to the channel. That's the absolute best way you can support the podcast. As you can probably tell, I don't have a team behind me helping with recording or editing the podcast, and I don't have a lot of fancy equipment, so any help or support is greatly appreciated because it will help the podcast grow and get better. And finally, keep on struggling.